had quite a successful job. I was good at my job, and yet didn't feel right in myself. And I was just, the only time I felt happy was when I was pain-free, when I was asleep. And of course, I couldn't sleep because of the way I felt. So I tried to induce sleep by any way I could. That was alcohol reliance. I started to dabble in substances you don't buy across the counter in Boots. So the ultimate was when I made the decision to take my own life. I was just in a real dark place, and I decided that I would end my life by jumping from a railway bridge in Leicester. I didn't tell anybody, I didn't leave any notes. I just decided that that was it. And I climbed onto the wall of the bridge with the intention of going over. I was then aware of like an inner voice in my head, which I wrote off as conscience. I had a colleague that took his own life some months before that I had difficulty coping with, and the voice in my head said, look, just remember how angry you were, so don't do this. And that made me get off the wall, and reluctantly I went to seek some help. So I went to see my GP, and he referred me to hospital, and I was put through this very urgent mental health assessment, and I was diagnosed as suffering from severe depression. Well, initially I had to see a psychiatrist on a regular basis. I did see a psychiatrist for a year in total. I was prescribed some medication, and for a good 3 or 4 months I was in a real dark place as I tried to rebuild certainly my marriage and that of my family. And so there I am at home, feeling rather sorry for myself, and my wife Sue invited me to our local vicarage for one of those bring and share evenings, and I initially thought, no, please spare me, but I reluctantly agreed to go, and I had it in my mind that I was just going to go and just smile sweetly at people and then come home again. So anyway, I went with my wife to our local vicarage, and I met some fellas there who were all right. They were normal sorts of guys, obviously all Christians, but not what I perceived Christian men to be, because they were okay fellas. And I had a really good evening, and I went home afterwards with Sue and went to bed. I then experienced my worst nightmare ever, and I'm not easily spooked. As a 35-year police officer, I'm not easily intimidated by things, but this was the most frightening experience of my life. And in my nightmare, I was being pulled between two forces. On one side was nothing, just an abyss of darkness, and on the other side was a tiny speck of light. And I was being pulled between the two. Unbeknown to me, my lovely wife Sue was praying over me. I didn't know, I was asleep. And after this titanic battle, where I really did believe I was going to be torn in two, the darkness released its grip, and I was propelled towards the light, which got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I was released into this pure blinding light. I sat up in bed. I was soaked through to the skin, and obviously confused, trying to work out what I'd just experienced. And in the corner of the room, a figure held out his hands towards me and said, "Paul, just trust in me." And I knew that it was Jesus. At that moment, I knew that Jesus was alive. So then that started me on my quest to find out, to get to know him. The Campaign Against Living Miserably, what a great name. They did a masculinity audit in 2016 where they said that because men have lost that ability to talk, they self-medicate. They try to make things better for themselves, and that's why they drift into all these alcohol reliance, drug abuse and all that. And for me, that's just where I was. I'd got nowhere to go, so I thought I'll deal with this myself. But you start looking down the wrong paths. I'm not sort of dodging the storms anymore, but I'm learning to live in them, because life is not an easy thing, of course. And And I don't have this sugary view about what Christianity is about. It is a battle, you know, we are in a fight, but I know that with Jesus by my side, I'm going to win this one.